Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Britt Hennemuth from Vanity Fair. But before we are joined by our esteemed guest today, I want to take a brief moment to tell you a little bit about the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. It's a nonprofit organization that relies entirely on donations to provide emergency assistance and free educational programs to SAG-AFTRA artists. This conversation is made possible thanks to the generosity of these supporters. Over the past year, the foundation has given nearly $7 million in COVID relief to more than 7,000 performers. If you are a SAG-AFTRA artist and need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video below, and thank you in advance for your support. And now, without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to all of you the Golden Globe Award winner, Tony Award nominee, SAG Award nominee, BAFTA nominee, and Rising Star recipient, and most recently, the history-making Academy Award nominee, Ariana DeBose of West Side Story. How about that?
That's a lot.
That's a lot. You've done a lot in the last couple of years since we met.
It's crazy. Gosh, I feel like that was a whole lifetime ago, no?
It does for me. I can't imagine what it feels like for you. So I think because I know this story, but I think everyone else needs to hear this story. When we first met, you had just been cast in the role of Anita, but why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what you were up to that day? I know there was a matinee. I know there was a callback with Mr. Spielberg. Why don't you tell everyone how that all sort of came to be?
Oh, like when I actually got the job or the whole, okay. Well, I got the job or found out I got the job in a nail salon. The day before I had this big long work session and I'd cut and bled for it. I remember I was in the floor and I looked up like full tears and mascara running down my face, and there's Steven Spielberg and he picks me out of the floor, gives me this big hug. We just had like a moment. And the next day I went to work naturally, because that's what you do. You go to work. And I did the matinee and I realized I was like seeing double. It's not very safe to continue to do your job. Holes in the floor because anyways, so I called out, but of course I felt like there was a lady in like the front row of the show that day who kept staring at my nails because I hadn't gotten them done. They looked really bad. So I was like, all right, so before I go home, let me just run into this nail salon real quick and get these done so no other audience member shades me. While I have boils on my nails, I get a phone call. Senor Spielberg or someone in his office is like, I have Steven Spielberg on the phone. He's on a plane. He'll call you back if the call drops. So I was like, oh, that's so nice. That's great. And he chats. And then he, of course, chatting on a call like that. And then he says, I want to ask you if you will be my Anita. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Oh, yes, this is awesome. And the lady behind the counter is like, are you okay? And I was like, so good. They're like, it's good news. Tell us what it is. I was like, I can't, but thank you. And also, can you turn the phone off now? So that's how I got the job. Some lady shaded me, which is why I ended up in a nail salon. And then, yay, all's well that ends well.
All's well that ends very, 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 very well. So obviously, the announcement yesterday with the Academy Award nomination is huge. And since statistics have been rolling out, so I'm just going to read some of those out. You are the first Afro-Latina actor ever nominated by the Academy.
Oh, wow.
You were the first openly queer woman of color nominated. You were the first Puerto Rican woman nominated for an acting category since your predecessor, Rita Moreno, from the 1961 incarnation of West Side Story. And also what I thought was kind of interesting is Anita is now sort of in the pantheon of iconic film characters that have had double, not like people who have played the Joker twice and been nominated, or like Vito Corleone or whatever. So now Anita is kind of the female character to join that. So
that's cool.
What was your reaction? I know a little bit about how you heard the news there as well, but what was your reaction to this sort of historic moment for film and for you?
I think I'm still having a reaction.
Sure.
I don't know, when I got the news, I was just really calm. Like this surge of energy went through my body. And I think that's like still happening when I mean, I've never experienced anything like this really. The only other time I was nominated for anything that felt super monumentous to me was my Tony nomination. And
Sure.
but there weren't a series of firsts associated with that. This is something that I don't think I'll really fully understand until much, much later. But processing being first in any lane is it's incredible. I never thought I'd be really the first to do anything. I was just sort of like, let's make America dance again. That would be really great. But it's astounding and it's exciting. And I think it's a really cool mile marker that we're moving forward in a lot of different areas, like as an industry, and the folks that we are actually seeing, we're seeing and valuing lots of different types of people's work. When I was growing up, I have very clear images of like, oh my God, I love Diane Keaton and I love Goldie Hawn and I love Meryl Streep and I love Julia Roberts. And they're these types, maybe not types, because I don't want to pigeonhole them either, but they were very specific actresses who they were popular. Everybody wanted them in everything, and I think what's cool about the moment we're in is you have different types of women, different types of performances now finding their moment so that we can broaden not only our horizons as a group of artists and an industry, but also the audience. Like we're sort of teaching them and showing them the value of what it looks like to have my face, attached to an iconic piece. And I think that's really cool because every generation has their like popular and massively talented artists. And it's really cool to see the landscape of what those artists look like shifting because we're starting to reflect more of who we are actually. It's America, the world. It's not a one size fits all. It's not just one thing. And so it's really cool to see the faces diversify in the entertainment field, both in front of the camera and behind it. And I'm really stoked to be a part of that. Did any of that make sense?
It made so much sense. And you're such a leader in this conversation. And also I think about, if without the delays of COVID, this would have been your film debut and you were one of 50 people making your film debut in this. And a lot of people in this project and in this story and in this movie were able to bring in different conversations and different walks of life and different. So what was that like, sort of working with Stephen and Tony and Justin to sort of infuse a newer and fresher and more inclusive conversation and what's already been a piece that has that conversation, but updating it for a more contemporary audience that is.
Yeah. It was really, it was a phenomenal experience because, Steven Spielberg and Tony Kushner, our director and our screenwriter, really treated us like collaborators, like true collaborators. And I think, everybody has their own process, but for me, it's not every day that I come across folks who really want my opinion. Sometimes I have to shove it on them, respectfully. But they actively wanted to hear our experiences because the reality is there are two things going on with West Side Story. Our film takes place in 1957. So there's no way in the world we're going to know what it's really like to live in 1957. So they gave us the tools to understand. They brought folks in to talk to us about the actual atmosphere in San Juan Hill. Both Irish immigrants, Irish gang members, and Puerto Ricans who could really help us understand. In turn, we are all Hispanic and we all have our own individual lived experiences. And those were allowed to be allowed to influence the text and the depictions that you see on screen. You know, my lived experience as an Afro-Latina is something I'm still, I mean, it's still happening. I'm alive. I just realized how ridiculous that sounded. But my lived experience of, you know, getting to know my culture, becoming closer to it, finding full acceptance. And what I think is really fascinating, it's West Side Story helped me discover that acceptance that I thought I was missing from my culture.
Sure.
Because I didn't necessarily grow up with my Hispanic heritage readily accessible to me. And that has its own implications in my life, but I've always struggled with community. And there are plenty of Hispanics that understand that. There are, as an artist, people understand that. As women of color, we understand that. As ambitious individuals, you understand the struggle with community sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really lovely to be able to allow my lived experience as all these different things to influence this role and this writing. Because Tony actively wanted to hear that. So did Justin Peck. Justin Peck, as our choreographer, and his team wanted to know what felt good. And from a character standpoint, would Anita do this at this moment in time? Would Bernardo do this? Like, or what would he do? Because sometimes, you know, that's the beautiful thing about collaboration. Sometimes the people on the creative team don't know. And you get the opportunity to be like, well, I do. And that's great. That's a little thing called collaboration. And when it's done really well, you get really special, magical performances.
And your performance, I mean, I haven't even seen you since I've seen the film. It is so special. It is so magical. It is, I was like, the whole, by the way, I saw it in LA.
Yeah.
Packed house. Every time a song, I mean, I felt like I was at the Tony Award. Like everyone was cheering, screaming, like I mean, it was just a raucous time to go to the movies. And I'm not alone in thinking what you guys have pulled off is incredible. And then I'm curious also, because I imagine, and we talked about this a little bit, but you were still mid filming when we were talking, and you're playing Anita with Rita Moreno on set, playing Valentina, but you had that mentor or access to that mentor. What was that like, collaborating with her, helping you understand that character, talking to her about the way the world and the business has changed since 1961? How was that whole opportunity?
You know, it was an invaluable one, because it's not every day that you get to, you know, have a working dynamic with someone like that. But also, you know, generationally, I'm very aware that there can be a generational divide amongst actresses. And she was really graceful with me and let me have my space and my process. She never inserted herself. She would let me come to her, or she would check in on me and be like, "Are you good? Do you feel supported?" So like, she was really great. We didn't speak about the character very much, because she was pretty adamant that she was like, "You got this. You actually don't need me." And she just empowered me to infuse the character with everything that makes me unique, which was kind of liberating. You know, we're very different Latinas, very different women, but we have a similar sense of spirit. I think we both are strong-willed and we are very clear on who we are. And so is Anita. And so those are the commonalities amongst us. But she is astounding. She remains astounding. She will always be iconic. And I'm really glad to be able to call her a friend. You know, it's, I learned more about life from her, and just hearing the stories of how she came up in the business and some of her personal experiences, very painful experiences. Those experiences are infused in Anita. So there's more of Rita Moreno that inspired my Anita than actually her Anita, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Rita herself has gone through really complicated circumstances throughout her lifetime and throughout her career. And I found that to be really fascinating in regards to some of the circumstances that Anita goes through in our version of West Side Story.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, I think, is it the only scene that you're in Doc's? Yeah. Is that the only
Doc's
scene?
drugstore, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, there was something so beautiful for the viewers to watch. I mean, obviously, without spoiling anything, it's a tough scene, but to sort of see that, I don't know if it's baton.
It's wild.
But yeah.
Right? It's like an active baton pass.
It is, in a way.
It is. It is, and it's again, you get that generational dynamic that I was talking about in the context of that scene. It's still odd for me to watch for a lot of different reasons. It's a tough scene for me to watch because it does, in my opinion, it goes much further than the 61 film in regards to that drugstore scene. It goes further than the 61 film did, but also because it's, I played a scene with a really phenomenal actress. I mean, she's Rita Moreno, and that's the moment that we actively take each other on. And it's weird. It was kind of a mind warp for her, I know. And, you know, it's more of a mind warp for me now that I'm out of it than it was when I was filming it, because I made an active choice to just focus on the truth of the scene and talk to Valentina. Because if I was chatting, and it's not a chat, that's a full-on like shout at Rita Moreno, I don't know if I could have done it. I'm Southern in addition to being Hispanic and a Black woman, so you know we respect our elders. And so that type of reaction can be very hard, you know, a harsh thing to embody, but it's also a very truthful reaction.
I also, you know, just given the audience here, it's the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. It's people who are hoping one day to be, you know, sitting or standing in your shoes, right? And I remember when we first spoke, and I think a lot of people know this story, is that you'd auditioned for So You Think You Can Dance. You didn't make it to the end. That was kind of your first experience in the professional realm. And, you know, I remember you told me I was told that I was a stunning dancer, but I didn't have enough passion in my eyes for what I do. And that took me a while to get over.
Yeah.
And then yesterday you said something really beautiful, which is that, you know, in this career path, every rejection I like to call a redirection. And I just knowing who's going to be listening to this and knowing who the group of our audience here is today, I would love if you could just talk a little bit about that process as an artist, as an actor, and how you've navigated all of the redirection into something really exciting and celebratory today. But, you know, there's certainly been days that have not been exciting and celebratory. And yes. I mean, that's the thing about the entertainment industry. When things are going well, they are shiny. That looks like a cupcake with a lot of sprinkles on it. And then, which is misleading. Because I don't know, maybe the batter wasn't actually that great and it's too sugary. There's like something in the middle's gone really wrong. And there will be moments where like you've got some really low lows, or perhaps you know, it's going to take you a while to get to the cupcake, put it that way. But specifically to my experience, you mentioned So You Think, and that was really tough for me because that was a very public brush with rejection, but it was my greatest lesson, or one of my greatest lessons, because there was still value in the rejection. There was value in that entire process. I learned many, many lessons. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, but that doesn't mean it didn't turn out. It sent me to New York, which is where I was supposed to go, because all the things that happened there led me here. I've been redirected many, many, many times. And that's the thing. You will be redirected over and over and over and over again in this business. And that I use that term very clearly because you have to choose every day to believe that every time you're told, no, thank you, this job is not for you, it's not going your way today, that just means you're being redirected to something bigger and better. A job that's actually perfect for you. Because I'll tell you something else. Sometimes the jobs I don't get after I've moved on,
I hear about how the job went, and it was a dumpster fire. And I feel like I dodged a bullet, but that's not all those projects, but sometimes your redirection is actually saving you, because maybe it wasn't the opportunity you thought it was going to be. And that was one of the greatest things I ever learned. And I'm very grateful that I learned it early on. I learned it at 19. And it's something I continue to remind myself now at 31. This industry will teach you a lot about yourself. Inherently, we are a workforce that has a hierarchy. We are a workforce that likes to put people in boxes and define them. And as artists rebel against the man. Like, that's what we do. We don't actually like boxes, and we like labels if we choose them. Most artists, I think, would agree with that statement. So for me, I've constantly chosen to define myself. And even when casting directors disagreed with my definition of me or my label, I came into the industry as a dancer who sang and acted, but I was the dancer. So that relegated me to the ensemble. So I had to take it upon myself to change their minds. And which is also a little thing called reinvention. You will change people's minds and reinvent yourself over and over and over again if you want to have longevity in this business. And if you look at any famous actor in the last 20 years, or entertainer, Madonna, what has she done? Reinvented herself over and over and over again. Even folks like Kerry Washington, she never does the same thing twice. After Scandal, complete reinvention. You look at Meryl Streep, never doing, maybe even if she does the same thing twice, there's a reason for it. You know what I mean? But don't look up. When's the last time you saw her do a comedy like that?
Totally.
That's what it's about. It's about choosing to see your rejections as redirections and never letting someone else define you. That is the greatest power that we all have in this business. And that's how we change other people's minds and empower the public in many, many ways to understand that they have autonomy over their lives and that their voice matters. That was a really long answer. I'm sorry.
No, it's perfect. Are you kidding? It was perfect. The other thing, this is the other thing. I'm like fanning out here, but I read that America was shot over how many days?
Don't quote me on it, because we shot it over a month. Now, David Alvarez would say that it only took 10 days. And I was like, did it?
Right.
So, I guess the actual number of days is up for debate. But we shot it over the span of a month in many different locations all over New York City and Patterson, New Jersey.
And I understand that some of the biggest dance sequences were New York heat waves, to the point where shoes were melting on the cement.
Yes, that's correct.
And for those who are just sort of discovering your work here in West Side Story, you have a long track record of 8 shows a week, Broadway. Yeah. We've got Bring It On, Hamilton.
Oh, yes, honey.
Yeah. So how much did that prepare you? Because I don't think a lot of film actors could have done a month of
I agree with you. Here's the thing. I always get nervous when I say things like that, because I'm like, I'm not being arrogant, but it is just a fact. Like, Broadway trains you in a way that most actors you don't experience it unless you've really worked on Broadway and done the 8 shows a week and done this lengthy amount of rehearsal and tech and previews and there's a different type of stamina involved when doing a Broadway show than I would say comes with making a movie. There is stamina involved. Do not misunderstand. You're going to go take after take after take after take until you get the shot. But when you get the shot, you're done and you move on. Whereas in a Broadway show, you're going to come back the next day and do it all again, honey. It's a different thing. And not everybody is built for that type of rigmarole. So with America, Oh gosh. It really was a credit to our process, and I give it to our creative team. They chose triple threats. There's not a single ensemble member, not a single shark who is not a triple threat in their own right. We are trained dancers who are built to execute this type of material. And we're built to do it kind of anywhere, everywhere at any time. Dancing on asphalt in the middle of, 118th Street in Harlem. It's a different thing than doing it in a studio. And then you add Janusz Kaminski's like crazy football stadium lights on top of it. And then, Steven Spielberg's decided he wants to drop a sand bomb in the background in the middle of New York City. So it's a win-win all around. So you do have to do many things at one time, balance the elements, sing, dance, act, just throw in breathing fire and roller skating and call it a musical. That's what that was. That's what Making America. Now that's an interesting phrase. That's what Making America was all about. Doing many things at the same time and understanding the different perspectives that were being explored while you were doing it. Because at the end of the day, the song is plot driven. The song is teaching you who these people are. It's teaching you who the community is. So you have to carry that first and sing and dance on top of it. So, yeah. Oh God, I really don't know how I did that, actually.
I don't either. Especially knowing about the heat wave. And I also think it's like
17 degrees, my man.
No, I can't. Hot. I can't imagine. And looking that good, I would just be, I couldn't do it, but then I would be dripping.
We were absolutely drenched. Paul Tazwell's costumes are absolutely dreamy. Not gonna lie, hot as hell. And poor David Alvarez was in like a vintage sweater or actual sweater. So, and we did shoot it in summer. So I did remember asking him, I was like, what season are we supposed to be in, Paul? And he said, don't ask me that question. Okay.
And I also think of you, between Saturday Night Live, the Broadway, like you're like, you may be from the South, but you are a New York performer, a New York artist. And this movie is a love letter to your city. And I remember we also connected, I think, right after the movie got pushed for the first or second time. I don't know. It got pushed. Yeah.
It just got pushed.
It was pushed. And you were very astute and very collected. And you said it will come out when it is right for the city of New York and usher in a new energy. And as someone that I know has sort of stayed around the city throughout the last couple of years, how did it feel to open this film in your home city?
Oh, now that was special. That was really cool. And it did exactly what I thought it was going to do. It made people excited about musicals, and in an age or in a time, not an age, but a time where it's been really tough for Broadway shows. Reminds people that they're there, it was really special. We had lots of screenings where members of the Broadway community could also attend. And the feedback, I can't tell you how many people were like, I just sat there and I cried because it just is what we do. It's just on screen, I think it made it all tangible again. And it inspired a lot of people. So, and that's exciting to me because, not that my goal is to inspire others, but I want to make people feel. So what this movie did was allow New Yorkers to feel, and that's important. I think sometimes, New York is known for the grind. And with the pandemic, there was absolutely no grind, and to have not just a movie, but a cinematic experience, a moving piece of art that actually is a love letter to the city and a love letter to this craft that we love, musicals, come out when it did. I think it was really exciting. And I think I think it's going to help usher in a new moment. I think we might start to see new musicals, both on stage and screen. Well, that would be a really good day.
That would be it.
Like,
Oh, you got a guess.
Always cats. Me and my cats. The variety. Okay, that's ready. Don't you eat my flowers. Don't do it.
Don't eat our congratulations flowers. That's a good luck sign, I think. I think that's a sign that new musicals are coming. New York is back. Yeah. And there might be a little gold man coming onto that shelf with the flowers
like
and
I crossed my fingers at the wrong part. Who knows? Who
knows? I think I know. Okay, well, on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation and everyone here at Vanity Fair, I want to thank you so much for sharing and talking about your experiences, your big news, your process, your craft with all the fellow performers listening here today. Congratulations.
Thank you, Britt. You're amazing.